Good evening, my dear friends. Welcome to Voice of Legal Immigrants. You're watching this special session today, a session that has been planned specifically to inform you and educate you today about President Trump's executive order on the suspension of H-1B, L, J, and different kind of non-immigrant visas. Today's day is a special day in the history of America because this kind of suspension of these non-immigrant alien visas has happened in rarity. Of course, COVID has made lives miserable and a lot of Americans lost their jobs. And President Trump had to take some action, and that's where the non-immigrant community is taking the response and the decision there, and the effect comes on them now. Well, to discuss about this EO, on the proclamation and the suspension of these non-immigrant visas, I have a guest with me. Her name is Attorney Prashanthi Reddy, and she is currently the Immigration Counsel and Advisor for Indian Consulate in New York, and is an immigration advisor for American Telugu Association. Ms. Reddy attended the University of Pennsylvania Law School and graduated with LLM degree in 1996. And she's member of American Immigration Lawyers Association and New York Bar Association. Ms. Reddy was voted as the top 100 lawyers by the National Advocates, top 100 immigration lawyers in the state of New York by the American Society for Legal Advocates. And she was also recognized by the American Institute of Legal Counsel as the 10 best immigration attorneys in New York. Prashanthi, thank you for joining us on the shortest notice today, and welcome to Voice of Legal Immigrants.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jyotsna.
Prashanthi, this, the EO was being anticipated, of course, as people were speculating, when will it come? People were waiting last week itself. Today, finally, President Trump has, signed this EO, apparently, it looks like. And we would like to have more insights from you about, how it is going to affect the entire non-immigrant community, especially the H-1B visa holders, the L1s, and other people. I'm having a constant range of calls coming in. So I will take the callers as well, Prashanthi, and well, you can give the little insight first.
Well, to start off with, yes, it's the proclamation is going to be effective as of the 24th. So the day after tomorrow at 12 a.m. So it's not yet effective.
23rd, you mean to say? Because today is 22nd.
Today's 22nd, so 24th right. By 12 a.m.
Okay, 24th by
okay. It's not effective before that. And then that's one thing. And this second thing is most important. I'm just trying to give highlights. The second thing is that the previous executive order that he has published, he has extended that as well within this order. Mm-hmm. So that was set to expire tomorrow, I think. And he's now extended that until the end of the year, December 30th. Mm-hmm. This executive order is also until December 30th of this year. We were hoping it'll be for 60 days, but he's right now it's until December 30th, and it could be extended by a period of 30 days or 60 days as he fit, depending on the situation. That's what.
Okay. Right.
Now, the people who are affected by it, most important, are the H1s, H2Bs, and accompanying dependents, so the H4s, the Js and the dependent for the Js, the Ls and the L2s, that is the dependents.
Okay.
But it's not all H's or all J's or all L's. It is only those people, listen carefully, who are outside the United States as of the date of this proclamation, and who do not have a non-immigrant visa. So if you're stuck outside because of COVID-19, you're on a H1 for 10 years, but you're just outside the country because you went on a vacation, whatever, you can come back. It doesn't stop you from coming back. It doesn't stop your dependents from coming back. It is only for those who do not have a visa. Maybe their visa expired, or maybe they're new arriving aliens who have just gotten a H1 and have never come into the country. So it is only for them. And it's also not for people who have some kind of a travel document or an advance parole document. Like people who are on a 485, they travel by using advance parole. So it doesn't apply to them because they have advance parole. So it only applies to those people, H's, L's, J's, and dependents who are presently outside the country and do not have a valid visa.
Question was, the person was asking that he has his family members who have stamped non-immigrant visas and they're outside the country. So is it okay for them to come back, or they will also get stuck?
Yeah, so that's a good thing that they already have a visa and their visa is not expired. If they have a valid visa and they're on a H4, yes, they can come into the country, absolutely, because it doesn't apply to them.
There is any issue with the renewal of H4 EADs, basically? She has applied for her biometrics and all, and of course she's awaiting, and of course this is something H4 visa extension here and getting the H4 EAD. So please give your insights on that as well.
Yeah, so right now the executive order doesn't say anything addressing the H4 EAD. So things are as they were. It's status quo where H4 EAD is concerned. So there's no issue with applying for an H4 EAD extension right now.
So Prashanthi, I have a question now pertaining to these people with the family-based immigration as well. I mean, I have another caller though. I will take this caller and ask my question. Hello, can you please tell your name and ask a question?
Yeah, this is Sunil here. I'm trying to ask behalf of my friend who's there in India right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on a vacation, and by the time he came back, there was a lockdown. So just wanted to check, is he impacted, or can he still come back?
Okay, you are saying by the time he wanted to come back, he got stuck there, right, Kumar?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The flights were cancelled.
I understand that. So is it okay? Now it all depends. Prashanthi, he's asking for a friend who is stuck in India right now. By the time he had to come, the flights and everything got cancelled. So he's stuck there. So Sumit, I have a question. Does he have a visa stamping pending right now, or he has a visa stamp?
He has already a visa stamp. He has a valid visa.
Oh, he has a valid visa. So Prashanthi, I think it's an easy question. Thank you.
Right. If he's on a H1 and has a valid visa, or on any of these categories and has a valid visa, there is no issue. He can come into the country. Doesn't apply to him.
So basically, to the audience, people who are stuck in India and who are on the valid visas, which are non-immigrant visas, if they have valid visas, who were there in USA, they went out for vacation or for some work in India, they can come back to US if they have visa stamped. I have another caller here, Prashanthi. So I'll take this call right now. Please tell your name and ask your question.
Hi. My question is, we already have I-140. We already have I-140 approved, and we have applied for the advanced parole, and our GC date is current. But since the visas are suspended, the GCs are suspended, so how do we
Are you are in US though, right?
We are in US, we have on L1, and we have applied GC on EB1.
Okay.
And our date is current now. In July's visa bulletin, our EB1, our GC date has become current. So had the situation been normal, we would have got the GC. But now, since it's suspended, what would happen?
Okay, thank you for your question, Prashanthi. She has an issue that they were on L1, EB1 approved, and of course, what has happened is this all happened, so the processing and everything was halted. So she has a question: will it impact their date got current recently with the new visa bulletin, basically? So she has a question: will it impact anything? They are on advanced parole right now.
Yeah, so they would, I'm presuming, want to file for a 485 adjustment of status. So if they're in the country. As we know, the executive order.
Prashanthi, she says her 485 is approved.
Okay, so then what is the issue?
Fear. So we are here to clear the fear, my dear viewers. Actually, if you have things, you are here on site in US, your green card processing and everything, I think there is no issue. All the things.
Yes, she has her 485 approved already. All she needs to do is wait for the card to be issued, and that will be sent by mail. So, so she's fine. I don't see any issue.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the question. So Prashanthi, the fear that has come to people's mind is, of course, they're feeling as if, I have another question though. I'll take this question as well. Hi, can I please know your name and the question, please? Your name and question, please.
Hello.
Yes, please. Please ask your question and please tell your name.
Yeah. Okay. So my question is, I am in India, and I am on H4. My husband is in USA. He is in H1, and his H1 he has got stamping. but I have not got the stamping yet. So will I be able to get the stamping and come to US before December?
Oh my God. Okay, now this is really a sad situation. Prashanthi, address the issue. The question, if the viewers could not hear, is the person who's calling right now is in India right now. She is a H4, but her husband is here in H1B. He's on H1B. He's on site in US right now, and she was due to get her stamping done. But what happened was this all lockdown happened and everything happened, so she could not come back. Now she is due for her stamping. In this situation, Prashanthi, what would happen to her fate? Because she's on H4 and not stamped yet.
Right. So this will affect you, unfortunately, directly, but it's not as bad as we think it is. It's until the end of this year. So after that, hopefully, things will be more normalized. And you have to remember the elections are coming in November. So once elections happen, then it's a completely different ball game. All the previously issued executive orders are, they are going to look at them.
So basically, you're saying that people who are on H4 yet to get stamped, or any other people who are yet to get stamped, will get stuck?
Will be affected until December 30th or later, depending on whether he extends the executive order.
I hope you got your answer, my friend. All the best. Take care. This is a very sorry situation for the people who went for some funerals, for some family functions and everything. They were due for, getting stamping, and suddenly this happened, Now, Prashanthi, in this situation, what would be their fate? I mean, for people who are on H1, who were yet to get stamping done, if they are stuck and they were working for a client, say, supposedly, they were out. Of course, it all happened suddenly, everything, the kind of ban and everything that happened. Now, people who are either on H1 or, L1s or other things, now they cannot come back unless the stamping is done. Is that so?
That's correct. So they have to have a valid visa in their passport in order for them to come in. I'm hoping that most people who left would have a valid visa because they just left on a vacation. Unless the only situation I can think of is that their visa was expiring and they actually went outside the country to get it renewed. And they are we feel bad for them because they've been here for so many years and now they're, cannot come back.
I will come back in detail on this, Prashanthi. Thank you. I have another caller right now. I'll take this caller. I know these people are really curious and perplexed. Hi, can you please take your name and ask the question, please?
Actually, I have a question about my cousin who's in India. She's on H4. She recently started February. So she already booked a flight ticket for June 20th. Will she able
Okay, I get your question. Thank you so much. She says that she's already booked her flights for June. Her friend is on H4 visa, already got stamped in February. Will it really create any trouble for her coming back? She's already stamped. Visa is stamped, H4.
Well, there's no issue, as we have been saying. As long as you have a visa stamp, they have exempted all those people who already have visa stamps.
Thank you so much.
Coming for the first time, actually.
She's coming for the first time. Will it matter even then?
No, it doesn't. As long as she has a visa stamp.
Okay, as long as she has a visa stamp, this will not matter. Thank you so much. Thank you for the question.
Okay.
I'll have another callers right now. Prashanthi, today is a day for the callers. I am giving them due, respect because I understand they are really worried. Hi, can you please ask your question and your name, please?
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Tell your name and your question, please.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Mayank. I have a quick question. So I just graduated from one of the universities in the US. I was on F1, and recently I got into the lottery of H1B. And of course, my employer applied for the same. But what I'm not sure about is that if the new H1B will still be processed this year or not.
Really a tough situation. Thank you so much, Bank. Actually, his question is about he was on F1 visa. This year, he luckily got into the lottery, and this all unfortunate situation has happened now. He's worried what would happen to his future.
So if he's in the country already and he's filed for a change of status from F to H, I'm presuming, then his H1 will start if it gets approved or as of October 1st, whichever is later. His H1 will start as of that date and he will be on H1 status. So as long as he doesn't leave the country and need to go out for a visa, he's fine. He can continue to work. There'll be a seamless change of status from F to H. So it does not affect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. So there, for the audience who are watching us, if you were on F1 visa, student visa, and your lottery this year got picked for H1B visa, and if you are in US right now, then you do not have to worry. Your transitioning would be very simple and easy. You will be able to change your status when the time comes. That's October 1st, I believe. That's how they go for change of status, right, Prashanthi?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prashanthi. And I have another caller right now. So I'll take this caller. Please tell your name loudly and your question as well, please.
Hi. My name is Vinay. I have a question. Is that, I'm in US. I applied for the transfer. So it's in refugee status now. So will that be any issue? Can I take an issue or not?
Okay, thank you, Vinay. Okay. The question is, the person is in US, he is on H1B visa, he has applied for a H1B transfer, maybe he's changing his job. So what happens to his future? Will it be safe H1 transfer, or there is any problem that will come?
Yes, we have to remember that the executive order is based on the Immigration and Nationality Act 212F, and that luckily the 212F only can affect people who are outside the country, arriving aliens, people who are coming into the country. It will not have any effect on people who are already in the US. So he is already in the US, he has no problem filing for a transfer.
So Vinay has no problem at all. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. Yes.
Until some new regulation comes up, then and which is mentioned actually in this. So when we get a chance, I want to go through some of the other things that are mentioned, exceptions as well. Once we get a break from phone calls.
Sure. Thank you, Prashanthi. To all the audience, we understand the EO has just come today. Of course, all the attorneys, immigration lawyers will go through the EO in detail. But of course, as far as what the shortest information is available right now, these kind of EOs, when you are undergoing an H1B transfer, if you're changing a job here, but you are on site, it should not cause you any trouble as far as the EO is concerned and the proclamation is concerned. Thanks, Prashanthi. Thank you. I have another caller with me right now. I'll take this caller. Please tell your name and your question, please.
Hi, my name is Mayank, and I'm in the US. And I want to understand about the executive order on the adjustment of status cases. I've applied for the green card, and my interview is already completed. So, are the green card processing being also halted because of this executive order?
Okay, so the thing is, he is under he'll go and adjustment, like he's due for his green card. Date got current. Will it impact him? Is that so, Maya?
Yes, I've already got the interview completed. I've applied for 485. I've done the interview as well.
Why are you worried, man? Okay, his date is current. He's done with the interview, Prashanthi. Give him an easy, happy answer then.
Yes, you have no problem. You're good to go.
Okay, Mayank, all the best. Wish you a great time being a permanent resident soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, I have another caller right now. Please tell your name and ask your question.
My name is Samir. I wanted to ask, do you see any chances of a lawsuit being filed against this executive order, and what are the chances of it being successful?
Interesting. So his question is if a lawsuit can be filed against this order, and would there be any prospect of success on this?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question because it's different from what everybody else is asking. So,
and I'm very sure that Ayla must be itching for it. They will plan out something.
Now, this question will give the audience some new information. So, an executive order pretty much, yes, can be challenged in a court of law. And that's why when the government usually writes an executive order, they make sure that it is confined in its scope, that it's limited in its scope and its duration. So so there are many, we don't know what will happen, but I'm sure someone is going to file a lawsuit because they did that with reference to the last executive order as well, the recent one. But unfortunately, it was struck down by the court. They agreed to the executive order because it was so limited in its scope. Now with this, it's not as limited as the previous one. They're talking about all kinds of non-immigrant visas, and the justification he's giving is economic. Usually when someone gives an economic justification, it's frowned upon by courts. If you're given a health reason, then maybe it would have gone through more easily, but he's given an economic reason. And if you look at the economic situation and if you look at the industry, he's saying in this proclamation that the industries that use H1Bs are badly, there's a lot of recession in those industries, which is not true. So tech companies use this kind of use H1s, and basically what's going to happen is if anyone questions it, because if you look at the statistics for the tech companies, in March, the unemployment rate was 3%, and in April, it actually became 2%, the unemployment rate, as per publicly available sources. So actually, unemployment has become less in the tech sector, so there's no justification. So there is a very good chance that someone will fight this. And the second thing is also, he's talked about L1s. L1s already have a job, right? They're not taking anyone's job. They're moving from their foreign-based company to their US-based company. So, they have a job which is ready-made for them. They're not taking anybody else's job. That job is only for them, tailor-made for them. So it doesn't make any sense to suspend L1s at all. So I think definitely somebody is going to file a lawsuit, and there is grounds for to look at to show that this executive order is not justified.
Thank you, Prashanthi, for that insight. So, of course, for the viewers, if you are speculating if a lawsuit can be filed against this executive order by the president, yes, it may so happen. Somebody may come to file it. I mean, somebody may take a lead in filing this lawsuit, and we will keep a close eye over that. Prashanthi, I am getting, again, another caller is there right now with me. Please ask your question and tell your name as well.
Yeah, hi, my name is Rahul. So I have a question, like if can we go ahead with the I-140 filing, or this order will have any effect on the I-140 filing as well?
Okay, Rahul, thank you for your question. So I-140 filing, can it happen so? We can apply for green card. In fact, I'll club this question with another thing. Can green card, new applications be filed while being on site like the PERM and the I-140s, Prashanthi?
Yes, there is no restriction on filing labor certs or I-140s or 485s.
So what is this new green card thing then? I'll ask that question associated. They said no filing of new green cards.
So that is only for people who are outside the country and who are filing immigrant visas. So for them, the previous executive order, gave these terms and conditions, and there were some exceptions to that, of course, US citizen children, etc., and healthcare workers and people like that. But so the same executive order has been extended further in this executive order, and they've extended it until December 30th of this year. Even
Perfect.
for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your question. I hope you got your answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I have another caller right now. Please tell your name and ask your question, please.
Hi, my name is Abhishek. I have a question about H1B. So I have put my H1B in for extension and for an H4 for my wife. It was filed in June. So if we get in time before December, our plan was to go to India. Is it advisable to go to India before December, and will I be able to get the stamping done? Thank you.
Okay, my friend, I think you're not aware of half of the things that are happening then if you're asking this question. Prashanthi, his question is, he has applied for his H4 and his wife's H4 and H1B. You have applied for H1B transfer or H1B what?
H1B extension.
H1B extension, sorry, yes. And he wants to go to India to travel before December 31st.
You shouldn't travel unless it's a real emergency and you're willing to work from home, for the next, I don't know how many months, until at least the elections happen and we see what happens. But at the very least, until December 30th, you won't be able to come back.
So basically, if I were to rephrase, Prashanthi?
No, actually, if he leaves the country, if he has a valid visa, as we discussed, he can come back. There's no issue.
No, he says he has filed for an extension. If he has filed for an extension, Prashanthi, then he will have to get a stamping done.
It might have. So maybe we can ask him if his visa is still valid.
Okay. Is your visa still valid while you are filing for extension?
My visa expired October 12th, 2020.
No, it is not safe, my dear. If you leave this country, it expires in October 2020. You will not be able to come back for sure. You shouldn't be taking that step. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All the best. Sure. Thank you. You know, Prashanthi, I think I'll mute my phone for some time and not take any calls right now, because now I have to talk to you as well. And I have a list of my questions so that my viewers can be satisfied with this show, that the purpose of the show is, one, people. Of course, this question was, if I can travel to India, I have a stamped visa. If I were to, reframe this question in a different orientation, if I have a valid visa, can I travel to India? And until December 31st.
Correct. As long as you don't have to go to the consulate for a visa. If you have to go to the consulate for a visa, and because you have a visa, expired visa, then then do not travel.
Okay.
Just wait until this whole thing blows off, unless you have to for some reason. Then be ready to work remotely wherever you are. If you have a remote job, it's fine. Maybe you can manage. But otherwise, I suggest not to travel until more is known about this proclamation, and we know that it won't be. Right now it's there until December 30th. There's nothing. It's not going to go away.
Thank you, Prashanthi. There was a little glitch in the voice, so I'll rephrase it for people who are intending to go to India. If your visas are not stamped, this is not the time to travel. Please hold back. Stay at home. Stay in the country, in the United States of America right now. Work here only. Do not plan any travels until December 31st. After that, whatever happens with new EOs or whatever regulation comes, we have to keep an eye over that. After that only, please plan your visits. Because what is going to happen is, anybody who is outside of USA and he is due for the visa stamping cannot come back. Am I right, Prashanthi?
Yes, but there's some exceptions, and we need to talk about those exceptions right now.
Sure,
so in this executive order, they've carved out some exceptions, and they've said it'll be on a case-by-case basis. So basically, if someone is involved in medical research, or if they're involved in some kind of healthcare or some job which is essential to the US, a food supply chain kind of job. You can be on a H1 working for a tech company, maybe that's involved in food supply chain. So, or if you are a minor, this is important. If you're a minor and you're aging out, and you have to apply for a visa before that, then they can carve an exception for that. If you're a great permanent resident, or you've applied for a permanent resident status, and your file is not going through because of COVID and because of the executive order, because everything is on a standstill right now if you're outside the country. But if you're aging out, if you're going to turn 21, and you'll no longer be eligible for the category that you're seeking, then you can ask to be processed and they will process you. But again, it's an exception that they have to make, and they're doing it on a case-by-case basis. So for aging out children, they are trying to make exceptions. And then, of course, for the healthcare workers and essential workers, that's another exception. Permanent residents are exempt anyway. Spouses and children of US citizens are exempted. So these are the exempt categories that we should keep in mind.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. And I have another question for people. Of course, this is a different question for the family-based people, people who applied for the family-based visas, and they were due for their visa stamping. Is anything going to happen for them, or they will have to now wait till 31st of December?
They will most probably not be stamped because, again, there is a suspension of entry to the United States. And the entry includes, I think, getting new visas as well. That they be immigrant visas or non-immigrant visas. So that there will be a suspension on family basis. There was already a suspension, but it's been extended further until the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you, Prashanthi. So basically, for the viewers, for the people who are planning to come on family-based visas, there is no stamping available, so they will have to wait. That's what Prashanthi was saying. Prashanthi, there's a little glitch in the voice. I don't know. Technology sometimes plays around with us. So today is the day. And of course, there's a lot of traffic and volume, with the calls and all these things, viewership and all. So I have another caller.
Another quick thing is some additional measures, just to see a glimpse into the future, what he intends to do. He has also said, well, one thing is not about the future, but he just says that health of the people coming into the country. The Secretary of State has to monitor to make sure that they don't have COVID-19 before they come into the country.
Oh, wow.
So that's one thing he said in that executive order. The other thing which is telling is he's talking about EB2 and EB3 immigrant visas. And he's basically saying that the Secretary of State should take measures to ensure that people who are pursuing benefits such as an EB2 or EB3, that is people who are in the country, who are pursuing this benefit, there should be some kind of a regulation, because it can't do it through an executive order. It has to be through a regulation. So he's asking the Secretary of State to look into regulation that will limit the issuance of EB2, EB3 visas if the Secretary of State thinks that issuance of these visas will take away jobs, from United States.
So, Prashanthi, I will reframe your question from this information. Would that mean that people applying for PERM under EB2 and EB3 will come under the scanner? The fresh PERM filings?
Yes, I-140s usually. I mean, PERM filings will anyway come under scanner, because when there is a problem with the job market, when there is recession, labor certs anyway become more difficult to get, because audits happen, supervised recruitment happens. So it becomes a more difficult process. But we're talking about issuance of immigrant visas. So I don't know how he's going to limit the already extremely limited immigrant visas, or what, if any, measures are going to be taken. But he has pretty much said that, pursuant to an EB2 or EB3 immigrant visa or a H1B non-immigrant visa does not disadvantage United States workers.
Okay.
So he wants to make sure that it doesn't.
So they are trying to put extra clauses, Prashanthi, for that, for qualification of EB2, EB3?
So this starts from the labor certification, as you said. They will make sure that the job market is being tested more accurately, maybe, or they will not take things for granted. And also he's talking about visa numbers. Maybe he wants to limit them for some, I don't know what it means. So he's asking the Secretary of State to do some research to see whether the situation now is in keeping with what he wants with reference to the jobs available.
Thank you so much for the inputs. Prashanthi, there is a little glitch in the voice. I don't know. So, something to do with the internet connections and all. I'm getting a lot of calls, of course. I would like to ask about one more thing about this. What happens is the allocation of green cards, the numbers being available. Now that this entire immigration, family-based immigration, other immigrants who were to come to US are outside, and they will stay until 31st December outside of the country. So the green card filings and all are not happening, the new ones, as you said. Will the employment-based category green card backlogged immigrants benefit from this? Would there be any prospect of claiming these unused visa number and transferring them from these family-based unused numbers to the employment-based category?
It's possible they could do that, but especially for Indian nationals, there are not that many people who are outside the country and waiting for immigrant visa numbers. It's mostly people who are in the country and waiting for immigrant visa numbers. So I don't think it'll affect Indian nationals to that extent, because there are not that many of them really outside the country. Maybe some EB1s at the most, but and of course family-based petitions. But whether they will actually move I don't think they will move family-based numbers to the employment-based. I doubt they'll do that, especially in this scenario when we're talking about limiting.
So basically, that was the concern from family-based visa numbers. Can they give it to the backlogged community? My question is that. And
understood. So I doubt it, because in the present scenario, they don't want to really give any expansion of immigration. They're restricting it as much as possible. So I don't think we can expect that.
Prashanthi, there are viewers asking many questions about, there are people who are stuck there in India right now. A caller called and asked, he went for marriage. So he is stamped. Can he bring his wife back?
As we discussed, if he's already has a visa and he doesn't have to go to the consulate, yes, he can come into the country. They won't stop him from.
But if he recently got married, the wife would not be having anything, right?
Unless they went for a H4, I'm hoping they did. But remember, but the consulates, even if he wants to go now, I don't think the consulates are even still open.
Consulates
are closed. The proclamation has not started. The proclamation is from the 24th, 12 a.m. So it hasn't started yet, but I don't think they can do anything with that information because, there's no consulates are open as yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no consulate open. So no B1 visa also, they cannot travel, parents and all, right? Nobody can travel. If they have stamping
No, there
done,
is no
can
issue
B1
with the
travel?
B1. There's no issue with the B1 or B2 visa. They're very specific about which visas cannot come in. So they're
Okay.
targeting the work visas, basically the guest worker program, H2Bs, H1Bs, Ls, Js. Those are specifically the visas that they're targeting. So it's very specific to those categories.
Okay,
So the
perfect.
TNs can still come in because they haven't included TNs in there. The E3s can still come in, the Australian nationals. They are work visas as well, but they didn't target them because maybe they think there are not enough of them to matter.
So I have a question regarding, people who have already stamped visas, B1, B2 visitor visas. I mean, parents can visit, this means, or the family members like who
Yes,
are.
as soon as the flights open up. It's only a logistical problem.
Right. So there's no ban on them. Okay, I'll take a call right now. Prashanthi, a lot of callers are calling me, of course. So I'll take this call right now. Hello, please please tell your name and ask the question.
Hi, my name is Hindu. Actually, my son, he's a U.S. citizen, but he's studying in India. My sister, she is raising my son. My sister, she have a visitor visa. Leave, my son used to come along with my sister. So, my sister, she is able to travel to U.S. with her B1 visa.
If she has a visa stamped, Prashanthi. Okay, so Prashanthi, her question is, visa is stamped. Can she travel with her U.S. citizen kid?
Yes, absolutely. U.S. citizen kid has no problem traveling, and the accompanying guardian is not coming here to work. He's only coming here to visit, so there is no issue whatsoever once the flights open up.
Right. I hope, Indu, you got your answer. Thank you for your call.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Perfect. You're welcome. Okay, I'll take another call. We will take a streak of calls for another 10 minutes. Prashanthi, it's like a rapid fire round. So please share your name and ask your question. Ask the question as well.
Hi, this is Sirisha. I have a question regarding B2 visa. My parents are in India, so can they already have the valid visa? Can they come now for a visiting here?
Yes, as we discussed with the previous question, they can.
Yes, they can come. Bring them over. Enjoy your summer vacations. Happy summer vacations for you. Thank you.
Be careful with COVID, though. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful of COVID because they will be screened for COVID when they come here at the port of entry.
Okay. Is there any quarantine or something here after coming?
There is no quarantine here. For our knowledge, we don't know. There is no quarantine happening. Is there any quarantine, Prashanthi?
Not to my knowledge. No. Unfortunately, they should be having it. But there is actually a ban if you're coming from the European countries. You cannot come into the US if you're coming from the Schengen countries. So there is a ban, travel ban for that.
Okay. So European countries, people cannot come?
European countries. So there's still a travel ban for people who are coming from those countries.
Thank you so much. I'll take another caller now. And this is, please share your name and ask the question.
My question is regarding being able to renew my visa. So, can I renew my visa?
Where are you located right now? Are you on site?
Canada. I'm in Canada. I live in Canada. I work in US.
What is your visa status otherwise? H1B.
H1B. Yeah.
So Canada, of course, the Canadian embassy, are embassies open in Canada as well for US?
No. Not open, but it's open. Can I renew my visa?
That is up till 31st of December now. Prashanthi, am I correct? Like if he has to wait.
I couldn't hear.
Okay, his question is he is staying in Canada. He works for US, but he is in Canada and he has to get a visa stamped. So once the embassy is open, can he get a visa stamping done?
No, he cannot. Well, he cannot because of the whole proclamation. That's what it's all about.
That's where it is. So
unless
without,
he can come on some other status. He doesn't have to come on a H1. I mean, if he wants to come to the US, I don't know if he's a Canadian immigrant or what he is.
No, he's an H1B. He's an
H1B, but he was just working outside the country. But if he already has a visa, then there's no issue, as we know. If he doesn't have a visa, then there is an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a visa, but it expires in September.
It expires in September.
So come now.
So why don't you come now then?
You have to come now. Come by road.
Because I have home in Canada, so I have to I'm renting here, so I have to vacate the property.
Sir, the problem is you have a home in Canada is another issue. If you really want to come back on your H-1B status, you must come ASAP to USA because you have validity of visa till September, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. My goodness. Okay. So there was a question about people who have stamp visas, and I have another question coming up. Hi, please
My
tell.
name is Rajesh. I have a question. The question is, this is a transfer case, and will there be any, further scrutiny on the, further processing of the transfers at this time after the proclamation has come in?
Okay, thank you. Rajesh, this question was asked earlier also. So basically, Prashanthi, the question is, will there be any concern if the person is transferring his visa while being on site here?
There is no issue with people transferring and extensions and amendments, etc.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope, Rajesh, you got your answer. There is no issue. Go ahead with your visa transfer while you are on site. No problems at all. Thank you. So to all the audience who are watching us right now, we are accepting your calls, of course, and Prashanthi is trying her level best to answer back to your questions, which range from being on site or being stamped outside US and everything. So I have another caller right now. I'll take, can you please tell your name and ask the question?
Hi, my name is Prashanthi.
Hi, Tafo. What's the question, please?
Yeah, so I called earlier. Actually, I have a brother-in-law who is supposed to come here. He had an interview date on the 18th of March.
All right.
Okay, so 18th of March, he had an interview. Now he's turning. I know. I heard the lawyer Prashanthi mentioning that on if they're turning 21, there's an exception. He's turning 21 on January 1st. So how does that work for him, and what's the process for that?
Okay, and what is his visa status otherwise? I mean,
so he's supposed to come here under mom and dad visa.
okay.
So he's a minor.
So it's a family-based.
Mom and dad hold the green card.
Okay, it's a family-based sponsorship where the parents are the sponsoring their kid, but he's about to age out, and he was supposed to go for an interview in March, but unfortunately, this all things happened. All the visa ban and everything happened. So what would happen in that case, Prashanthi?
So as we said, there's an exception for U.S. citizen children. I don't know if they're U.S. citizens or permanent residents, but there's an exception for USC children, so it doesn't matter. The ban doesn't apply to them if they're USC kids.
Okay. So if they're kids of US citizens, they can come.
Whenever the visa opens up.
Whenever the visa, but then he will age out by that time. Still,
if they're aging out, and it's important that they apply for an emergency visa. So basically, if you go to the consulate website wherever you are, you can request for an emergency visa interview because you're aging out. So they have the mechanism of granting you an appointment in emergency situations. So please try doing that. Send them an email by going to their website first.
Okay, you have to send an email to the consulate, about this emergency situation. You should not hold back until December 31st as maybe the consulates will open later. Try sending an email and get an emergency visa. This is what Prashanthi is advising you.
Okay, so now even because I heard if they're a U.S. citizen, so the parents are a permanent resident, not a green card.
Oh, parents are permanent resident. They are not U.S. citizens. In that case as well, Prashanthi?
So if they're permanent residents, there's no exception. But they have made an exception in this executive order where they've said that if a child is aging out, they will allow them to come into the country. But again, for that, you have to reach out to your consulate, inform them of the situation and the emergency time frame that you have, and the Secretary of State can make an exception in your case. That's what they have said in this executive order.
Thank you so much for your input, Prashanthi. Thank you. Okay, so it's very tricky, when it comes to this kind of situation. Well, I have another caller, Prashanthi. Please tell your name and ask the question, and be loud, and please reduce the volume of your TV sets from behind.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the effect it has on the extension for L1? So if I have an L1 that's expiring in this year and I'm already in the US, how does this affect the extension?
Nice question. So L1 extensions, how does it affect them?
So it doesn't really affect L1 extensions. It'll only affect your ability to get a visa if you have to travel. So as long as you don't need to travel right now, you can file an L1 extension just like a H extension and remain in the country. And then once the ban is lifted, then you can leave and get yourself a visa. But it doesn't affect you're just filing for an extension.
And this is also applicable to the L2.
Absolutely. See, L1 and L2 both are covered. You are the primary, you are here. If you're applying everything from on-site, should not be a problem at all.
Dependents are also covered, so you can file an L2 extension or an L1 extension.
Thanks.
As long as you don't leave the country.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prashanthi. So, my dear viewers, you're watching Voice of Legal Immigrants. We are talking about President Trump's executive order on the current situation on banning these visas, which are H-1Bs, J visas, L1 visas, and certain other non-immigrant category visas. And people are worried, of course. People who had stamped visas, who are outside, they're waiting. Everything is happening. Once the flights open, if you have stamped visas, just come over, no problem. And 24th of June, midnight time, 00 hours, it begins. So try entering. But if you have stamped visas, you don't have to bother. And your approval for H-1B will also take some time. Prashanthi, well, I will add to this question as well. When we speak about these H-1B approvals now, when H-1Bs have been picked, would there be any possibility of any glitch coming in where administration may say, no, we don't want to give these H-1Bs anymore? Because
they're not going to do that. Again, it's very specific what the executive order says, talking about new arriving aliens. So they are not talking about USCIS processing. They'll process it because they're getting the money. And they know that these H-1Bs are valid for 3 years. So it doesn't matter if the H-1B, the visas cannot be received until December. Because most people anyway, you have to remember, Jyotsna, they don't come in until next year. Most of the CAP people don't come in until next year.
True.
So it doesn't really affect that much unless he keeps extending it. So right now, H1s are going on as usual. CAP season is as usual. Everybody has filed. Whoever has registered has pretty much, most of them have filed for their H1. And they are expecting business as usual because, as I said, people don't come in until early next year.
Right. So I have one more question, Prashanthi, regarding this. When new people who are outside of the country and whose lotteries were picked, how much will it impact them? Because there's a new lot of H-1Bs, and some of them are outside the country.
Right.
What would happen to them?
It definitely affects them because they cannot come into the country. Now, premium processing also has started for CAP cases. So if this proclamation was not in effect, theoretically, they would be able to come by October 1st.
Right.
Because the cases would be approved by October 1st because it's premium processing. So now there'll be a delay in them coming into the country. But usually, as I said, historically, CAP cases have never had premium processing.
Mm-hmm.
The CAP cases have always taken 6 months to 8 months to a year to get approved. And then again, going for a visa. So in most instances, we don't see new H-1B caps coming until the next year. So it'll be the same thing as it was, in the previous years when, the H-1 process itself was taking so long that, people couldn't come in until, the following year. So as long as your H-1 is still valid, even if you get a visa stand and if you don't come in for the next 2 years, your H-1 is still valid. You're still being picked in the CAP. So the only thing you need, if there is some delay in you arriving into the country, is a letter from your employer basically saying that they still need you.
Okay.
That's the only thing that's needed. But you can come in as long as throughout the validity of your H1 at any time.
Thank you so much, Prashanthi. Appreciate your answer. Oh my God, I had more than 200 calls that I have missed. Apologies to the callers who were trying to reach, because it is so much I can do, in this situation. Prashanthi, thank you for all these insights you are giving me, right now. I wanted to speak about litigation part, I'll come back to it. I'll take this caller right now. Please reduce the volume of your television sets and tell your name and ask the question. Yes, please.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please. Tell your name, ask your question.
Hi, this is Karim here. So right now I'm on H1B visa, and my spouse, who is in India, she has F2 visa that is expired, right? So she didn't go to stamping, and I think she need to go and get stamped. So in that case, till December 31st, so she's not able to come in here.
So is her F2 visa stamped? I mean, but she's your spouse, right? How would she come on F2?
Yeah, she cannot be on F2 because you're no longer on F1. Has your H1 already gotten approved?
He's on H1 now, right?
Yes, I'm right now on H1.
So why did your wife not change her status to H4?
I guess.
Yeah, like a couple of months ago.
Okay.
In January, yeah.
Okay, she got stuck now. So Prashanthi.
I mean, she could come on a visitor's visa.
Oh, she could come on a visitor.
Come on a visitor's visa and then change to a H4 after she comes here. But they might say that she is misstating her purpose and that she's coming for a visit. They might say that, but there's no harm in trying to get her a B2 visa to visit her spouse who's here. Family separation and all that. That's an important thing. They don't want to separate families.
Okay. But Prashanthi, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt. I have a question. Consulates are closed, even for B1, B2 visa. They'll not get a fresh visa, right?
They're opening up though slowly. I mean, things are opening up. This is the third phase in New York at least. So they have actually sent an email saying that consulates are opening up and the biometrics and ACS centers, or the application support centers, are also opening up in a staggered manner. So I think they'll open up soon. They can't remain closed forever.
Okay, so Prashanthi's advice is to get. Yeah.
Do you think we don't have any problem if she comes in as a visitor with some other
if she's able to get a visitor's visa without misstating any facts, and she comes in, there is no issue at all. She can just wait for 60 days maybe and then file a change of status to H4.
Perfect.
That's important even for the previous callers, whoever were not able to come in. Remember, you can come in as long as you're not coming here to work. Defendants can always try and come in on a B2 or an F1 or something else.
Correct. So basically, it is an economically based ban because B1, B2s are not here to work. So that's the reason why they can come, right?
Correct.
Thank you. I have another caller. Please ask your question. Tell your name.
This is Paige, and I want to check that I'm currently on H4 visa in USA, and my husband has been stranded in India with my, state citizen kid. So, can I stay in USA? And I'm working currently on EAD.
Oh my God. Tej, okay. So I will rephrase this question in case Prashanthi you could not hear. She is on H4 visa. She has an H4 EAD. She's currently working. Her husband, who is on H1B, has got stranded in India. Is it legal for her to stay here?
So that's an interesting question, because simply because your spouse is outside the country on a temporary basis does not mean that you lose automatically your H4 status. Intermittent visits by the principal leaving the country doesn't affect your H4. So we could say the same thing. I'm presuming your spouse doesn't have a valid H1 visa.
Your spouse has a valid H1 visa, right, Tej?
He doesn't have a stamping. He has a valid I-797 petition approved.
Mm-hmm. So basically, he might have gone for stamping and he got stuck. Is that so?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Right.
So he has an I-797 extension which is valid for whatever time, but doesn't have a stamping. So what happens to the legality of her stay here now?
I think it's an interesting question, but they have said time and time again that simply because the spouse is outside the country for a short duration or intermittent period does not affect the dependent spouse's H4. But we don't know what the duration, if it's 6 months, does it still not affect the H4 or does it? It's a gray area. But yeah, but there is law which says that just because the spouse is outside the country, it does not mean that the dependent spouse becomes out of status.
Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for this answer. In fact, it is a very important question. Interesting question indeed. Tej, all the best. Should not bother you. Keep working. All our best wishes for your husband and your kid up there in India. And let's see what happens. All the best. You're welcome. Bye. And then ask your question. And please tell your name as well.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes, please.
H1 and their visa expired when they were in US and they filed for an extension and their petition got approved and then they went to India for vacation and before coming back they're supposed to go for Dropbox and they were supposed to get their visa stamped and then all these things happen and they're stuck there. And for the husband, they have asked him to go for an interview, and for wife, her passport got stuck in Dropbox. So both of them does not have stamping. So now the question is whether until end of the year they will not get their stamping, or what is the case?
They will not be entertained at the consulate until the end of this year. So they'll have to work remotely most probably.
They'll have to work remotely. That's what Prashanthi says.
So yeah, that's
okay. Because I can understand they cannot travel without stamping, but they will not get stamping at all until end of the year. Is that
absolutely no stamping because it is for H1Bs. This is a ban till 31st of December. So if your visas are not stamped, H1Bs, H4s, L1s, L2s, H2Bs, J1s, you are stuck. The consulate will not stamp your visa unless you have a stamped visa. You can come back.
So does it mean they will return the passport back without stamping?
So are they already in the process of processing?
They were in the process of getting the stamping done. So if your friend has a visa which has got approved, or maybe it has got approved if it is with the consulate and they've kept it, they have not returned the passport yet. How do we know that they have not approved it? If it is approved, then they can come back. Oh my God, people have 1,000 type of different kind of situations, which we could not even think about.
Right.
Please lower down the volume and ask your question and tell your name.
Hi, my name is Amrita, and I wanted to ask, if somebody has a visa for next 3 years and he plans to switch his company.
They are here in this country?
Yeah, they have a valid 3-year visa, and if he switches his company, so will there be any problem in transferring the I-140?
Okay, so here's the question, Prashanthi. Now the situation is the person wants to transfer his visa, but at the same time he has to apply for his green card again through the new employer, and I-140 would be filed again. What is the challenge? What could be the possible effect? As you said that EB2, EB3 will come under scrutiny.
Right. So, the good thing is that they already have an I-140 from the previous company. So, the priority date is already available. The priority date will be most probably ported to the new I-140. But they do have to go through the labor certification process again.
Right.
So, and there might be some challenges with the labor cert. Right now, labor certification is very smooth. We have record low audits in labor certification, but who knows? I think that will change because of the economy.
So it's a very tricky question.
Basically, the perception of the economy, not that the economy is bad, but the perception that it is bad. So let's wait and see.
Thank you, Prashanthi. This is very tricky, you know. But my concern is if somebody is transferring his H1B, you know, and his or her, and then they have to apply for their green card again. Of course, porting happens later. Once you have the firm, after that you can apply for I-140. And you are saying that if the administration is planning on reviewing the EB2, EB3 petitions again and again, then it's a challenge. Because what if they reject the new I-140?
Right. So if there's some new standard that's going to be used, but luckily right now, we can only talk of what is happening right now.
Right.
We don't know what new regulations will come. If you think of the worst case scenario, it's pretty bad. So there's no point in thinking about that. But Trump does have a lot of anti-immigration stuff on his agenda, and all affecting H1Bs, right from some of the worst will basically stop the H1 program, because one of the things he's saying is that he wants to implement a $20,000 fee for each H1.
Oh my God!
That will pretty much stop H1s in its tracks. And forget about redefining specialty occupation, bringing back the right to control. All this is already on his agenda. So we cannot speak for what might happen, but he did say in this executive order that he wants the Secretary of State and the Department of Labor to look at possible regulatory changes to ensure that American citizens don't lose their jobs. That's what he's pretty much said in a nutshell. So regulation is not as easy as an executive order is, because regulation requires a comment period, requires a publication and then a comment period. So that could take 12 to 18 months for any regulation to come through. And if the elections happen before that, and I'm hoping that we don't have to deal with all this.
Oh my goodness, it's pretty tense. I mean, of course, people are concerned. There's another caller coming in right now. Please tell your name and ask your question.
I have an H4EAD approved since 1st of October, and it's gone for extension. I want to know, will it be processed and will I be able to work after that?
Nice question, Priyanka. Stay. Don't be tensed. Stay calm. Nothing is going to happen to you. Prashanthi, I am reiterating your answer. So she has to apply for her H4 EAD extension. H4 also. October is her.
So nothing has happened with reference to H4 EAD. As we know, there was a lawsuit filed, and there was a regulation published. But they were supposed to publish the regulation and give the judge information by May, but that hasn't happened because obviously the courts were closed. So everything is at a standstill, but something might happen with the H4 EAD. So
oh my goodness! So you're scaring the H4 EAD community as well, that it might go as well.
It was inevitable because they were talking about it for so long, and Save Job, that organization that filed this lawsuit, the government really doesn't disagree with them. So where is the question of winning the lawsuit?
I believe this entire community of non-immigrant visa workers, high-skilled workers, H1B.
Unless he loses the election, then it's a different ballgame.
We understand until the election, but our understanding is if this kind of ban, altogether blanket ban, happens at a more larger level, there'll be a mass exodus of people. Yeah. Yes, Priyanka.
Yeah. So apart from that, my question is that even once that approval comes, without stamping on it, H4 EAD, will I be able to work there without getting stamped?
You don't have to worry about stamping. So far, you are here in the country. If you move out of the country, then it's a problem, because stampings will only happen when you leave the country, and you have to come back through a consulate, right? That's where. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Priyanka.
Thank you.
Bye. Another caller, please ask your question.
My petition has been filed for H1B visa.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know that what's going to be the scenario, that what should I expect out of it?
So depends upon what is your current situation, what is your current visa. Are you on site in USA or are you outside India?
Yeah.
Or outside US?
No, I'm in USA and I'm on F1 visa.
Okay, you're on F1 visa. You don't have to worry. That's what Prashanthi said. Your H1B, the change of status will happen.
Right, so as long as you don't leave the country, you can file a change of status from F to H. And as of October 1st or whenever it gets approved, whichever is later, you will seamlessly be on a H1 if it gets approved.
Thank you, Prashanthi, but I'm scared. Will these visas get approved actually? With so much of banning happening and everything happening, I'm concerned about a situation where these F1 people who are here or any other people who are on L1, you know, they also try to get H1Bs, you understand, right? They change their status, right? If their visas also got picked, what if the administration says, no, we want to scrap off entire thing now? We don't need anyone.
They can't do that. They can't do that. They can't do whatever they think they're doing. It's a legislature. In order to change that, the House and the Senate actually has to vote to scrap the H1B program, and they can't do that. Okay. Nobody will do it because you know the House is not Republican, so they don't have a majority. So that's impossible. That won't happen. The only thing they can do is try to restrict the program in a specific way through regulation and through this executive order. And regulation, as I said, is hard. Or through policy, you know, just by denying more cases than usual for some.
That is my concern only, you know, if the denials happen for these new H1Bs.
Actually, the situation is better now with the present cap cases than it has ever been for years because of the new memo that has come out, because of the IT Serve versus Cisna case. You know, they have basically said that it's unlawful to deny cases based on right to control, and it's unlawful to ask for itineraries and unlawful to ask for 3 years of work, and it's possible to be on the bench as long as you're paid. So there are a lot of things that have come out of this which have not been there for many years now. So we're actually in a good situation to file for this H1B cap filing. You know, we have to, maybe next year if some regulation comes out, then it'll still take 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, Prashanthi. Yeah. So I have another caller right now. Please tell your name and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Jyoti. So right now I'm working on H4 EAD, but I got picked in the lottery, H1B lottery, but I'm waiting for the approval. Does this proclamation affect me anyway? I'm in the US.
Another change of status. Yes.
Right. So it really doesn't affect people who are in the United States. It's a change of status from H4 to H1. Same thing as an F1 to H1 or any other change of status. You know, as long as you, all these scholars must remember, as long as you have asked for a change of status in your H1B application and you have not asked for consular processing. If you have asked for consular processing, you're in trouble because you will be able to move to H1. So you should have asked for a change of status as part of the application. And if you did, then your status will be changed seamlessly. You don't have to leave the country in order to be on a H1. But if you ask for consular processing, then you have to leave the country, get a H1 visa, and then come back.
So in that case, she cannot come on H1B if she had claimed for asked for a consular processing. She cannot change her status.
No, she will not be automatically changed to H1.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those inputs. Prashanthi, thank you for non-stop rapid fire questions that are coming back in. Again, reduce the volume, please, and ask your question. Tell your name as well.
Hi, my name is Soki, and currently I am on H1B and living in US, but my passport H1B stamp has been expired, but I do have an approval from UCIS, which is valid until 2022. So do I need to leave the country, or as long as I am inside the US, I'm good?
You know, Prashanthi, because this is what first timers, when they go for extensions and everything, or new people, they are worried. A nice question, but you don't have to worry, Prashanthi. You can reiterate it again for all the people blanket, you know, that if they have.
If you're in the country and you've applied for an extension or change of status, you do not have to leave the country. You do not have to get a visa, even if your visa is expired. Remember, there's a difference between visa and I-94. So as long as your I-94, which comes at the bottom of your I-797 approval, as long as that is valid, you can stay in the country. The visa is only for the purposes of travel, which means if you leave the country, in order to come back, you need a visa. But your visa doesn't determine your status. It's the I-94 that determines your status.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I hope he got the answer. There's another caller coming in. And your name and question, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, my name is Pallavi, and I have a question. Like, if my I-140 is approved and if the job is being changed, so will that like transfer of I-140 will it get affected because I have already completed the 6 months of I-140?
So Prashanthi, were you able to get the question? Basically,
Only
she's trying to
partially.
change her job,
Mhm.
and she will definitely apply for a new I-140 when she goes to a new employer. Right? Right? Am I right with that question?
Yeah, but I have already completed the 6 months of I-140.
You don't have to bother about the 6 months of I-140. You can change an employer at any point of time. It's not a problem.
Right, you change your employer. The advantage that you have is that you can port your priority date, but you will have to go through the labor side process again. And then when you're filing the new I-140, then you port your priority date. The 6 months changing the I-140, that's only under AC-21 if you've already filed adjustment of status. That's what the 6 months applies to. So you're confusing the 6 months period. It has nothing to do if you have not filed a 485.
Right.
Nothing. Nobody can invalidate your I-140 priority date. It always remains with you.
So this this green card processing won't, this whatever is going on won't affect my the process.
Your process will not be hampered. Are you looking to change a job, or you're still going to stay with the same employer?
Yes. No. Looking to change the job.
See, if you're trying to change the job, for the viewers also, Prashanthi had replied back to this question. Again, I'm reiterating. If you're planning to change jobs, you have I-140 is approved. Again, you will have to go for labor certification. Under this situation, when US, the organizations have opposed this kind of H-1B visas and all, and the labor market, already there are millions of people unemployed. When you go for a labor certification again through a new company, it might so happen you might not get approved, number one. Number two, even if you get approved for the perm labor, I-140 may pose a trouble because there is a new, the guideline that is coming in this EO is this also, that EB2 category and EB3 category should be reassessed. Am I correct, Prashanthi?
Yeah, so there might be a possible regulation which talks about maybe limiting the EB2 and EB3 or making the labor cert process a little more difficult. They're looking into it, but as of now, we should just talk about what we have now. As of now, there's no such thing happening. So you should not have a problem, to answer your question, you should not have a problem filing a new labor cert in I-140. At the most, under the present law, because the job market is tight, they might audit the labor cert, but that's not a big issue as long as you follow the regulations and you do the advertisements the way they need to be done. It shouldn't be an issue getting an audit approved as well.
Okay. Prashanthi, in continuation of this question, I'll ask this another question. Now, there is a person who has I-140 approved through one company. Under this stressful situation of not getting jobs or not getting the right project, it might so happen the H-1B worker may transfer his visa to another company and starts working there. Say supposedly he joins the client directly instead of just consulting. The client says, okay, I'm ready to take you in, but it might so happen this H1, the green card processing may get some problem. In this situation, person who has worked with an previous employer, and the I-140 was approved for more than 6 months, when his date becomes current, his or her dates become current, can they go back to previous employer and say, okay, my date has become current, I want to come back to you and please file my 485. Is there any kind of specification or some I don't know, some documents which say, okay, we don't object to your going when the date becomes current, you can come back and work with us or something like that?
So you have to remember that a green card petition is for a future job offer.
Okay.
Not a H1 where you presently have to show that you're working.
Right.
It's a future job offer. So as long as the job offer exists, you don't have to be actually working for them. So the only thing is when you file the 485, if it is for a future job offer, you get an EAD. So once you get the EAD, if you don't join the employer, then they might question the validity of that job offer. Because the EAD is the time when you can actually join the employer without having to file a H1 or anything. Okay. So if you don't join at that time, it's possible that they might question why you didn't join. So you have to explain. There might be a 485 interview nowadays, 485s are being interviewed. So they will ask that question, why you didn't join. And if there is a good enough reason, for not joining and a good enough evidence to show that you will join once the green card gets approved, it's possible that the green card can still get approved. So remember, it's a future job offer. But it's always good to actually work with the employer at least once you get your EAD, so that there's no questions asked at the time of the final processing of the 485.
So my question is, thank you for that input, Prashanthi. My question is, current situation is a lot of companies do not have direct clients, so they go through consulting. So some third party vendors or other people, through them they get a job, these consultants, and they work at the client side. It so happened the person says, okay, my H1B will, they cannot be on bench for more than 60 days. In that situation, they might get laid off. To fear that layoff, they can apply to some other company and get a job. Now, once they get a job with other company and other company says, okay, I'm not filing your green card, you can just work here on this H1B. And when the date becomes current, can the person go back to their previous employer and say, hey, please hire me back?
Yes, absolutely, he can. And that's what I was explaining.
Okay.
He can go back, but he doesn't need to go back. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, he doesn't need to go back. No, can go back in the sense because to reclaim that date, which has become current, he has to go back.
You don't need to actually be working for the employer to reclaim the date. That's what I'm saying. It's a future job offer.
Okay.
It's not, a green card is not for a present job. You might be working as a programmer analyst in the present job, but your future job offer, your green card, is for a software engineer.
Right.
Skill set. It's possible. So you don't have to be actually working in that job. Okay. So, but as I said, it's prudent to work in that job at least once you get the EAD, so that you can, so that the questions, even if there's some questions asked at the time of the interview,
Right.
you can really, confirm that it's a valid job offer. Otherwise, they might think it's not a valid job offer if you don't start working. But it's not, nowhere in the regulation does it say that you have to be actually working for the employer in order to get the green card. What they're saying is that they will hire you once you get the green card. That's what a green card application is about.
Wow, thank you. This will give a lot of clarity to a lot of people who are on H1B right now. People do not change employers under this fear that their green card is already, processed through their current employer. And if they change, they will have to undergo the same process of green card again. In that situation, they might not have to go for the new green card processing at all, the new employer.
They don't have to. They can just, continue to file the 485 through the previous employer.
That's what. They should go back to them at that time.
Employer once the EAD is approved. Directly.
And the previous employer cannot deny filing the 485 at that point of time. Is that so? Or they can?
So once he files the 485, as per AC 21, you have to wait for 6 months.
All right.
So after 6 months, you're allowed to then move to a different employer without having to do anything other than filing a 485J, which is a separate application.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I mean, these are the questions, this is insecurity. People are in the green card backlog. They're not getting their green cards. Now the situation is to save jobs because market is really, really bad for H1B visa holders right now. Not many interview calls are coming for them because it is, of course, as per the ethics of the country, they have to give employment to the American citizens first, to the permanent residents here. And then comes the non-immigrant visa category. So time has itself become very challenging. I don't know how many thousands of people, H1B visa holders, might go back to the motherland because of not getting a right project or a job. So that was the reason why I asked this green card related question, where change a job, secure a status at least, and then when the date becomes current, go back to the employer.
Yeah, that's possible, absolutely.
Perfect. And I will take few more calls and we will close the day. Anindra, please ask your question.
So basically, my H1 got approved in 2019 itself for the F1 to H1, where my COS got denied and I'm asked to come to out of country and get stamped. So I finished my stamping on December 2019 itself, but it has been issued at 2020, and till now there is no update at all. So by any chance, if conflicts open and stand across my visa, will I be allowed to come back on H1? It's on COS denied and should I finance will I still be, the ban will still affect me?
Thanks, Phanendra. Of course, Prashanthi, his situation is, of course, he got some 221G. He was an F1. He went to India. In the process, the result hasn't come yet. And all the things, the consulates have closed. So what is the scope for him?
Yeah, if he hasn't gotten a visa as of yet, and if he's not going to get it by the day after, June 24th, then most probably it will be on pause. And, they will not process his visa until the end of the year.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Prashanthi, I'll take 2-3 more calls and then we'll close the day today. I understand we'll come back with more clarity with you and, on this issue. Hi, please, can you tell your name and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, this is Srini, and I have a question regarding the I-140, what you have just now shared about the green card.
Right.
So so I had my previous I-140 with an old employer, and I went to a new employer, and I'm about to file the new form and all that stuff. I'm about to start that, but the point is, if my previous employer is not in a good financial state, okay, and in case if my practice becomes current, now, and if my current employer doesn't apply for any of these I-140 because of current situation and risk, and what happens then? What options do I have?
So you are saying the previous employer is not in a good financial situation to employ you back? It's a very tricky question, Prashanthi. He's asking is, he was working with employer X. Now he left him and joined employer Y. The employer Y is not filing his green card, and his employer X, he is not in good financial condition. So when the date becomes current, what would happen to him? How would he reclaim his, this thing?
Right. So he should go with the third employer who's willing to file his green card, because he can't stick with the employer who's not willing to file a green card. He can stay there temporarily, but since he might already have an I-140 petition approved and he has a priority date locked in, he can maybe afford to wait for some time and maybe then find an employer that is willing to file the green card. Especially if the first company is not financially able to, there's no purpose in filing, because then it won't get approved. But I don't know whether they're good or not. I mean, that only comes at the I-140 stage. The financial viability.
Yeah, but he's already approved, right?
The I-140 is already approved. There shouldn't be any issue to file the 485 because they don't look at the financial viability of the company. As long as it still exists and the job is still there, they don't care what the tax returns of the company say, really. So it's possible to file if the company is willing to.
Okay, he says, who will file my I-485? Is it him alone or his employer? It's him.
485 is an alien-based, it's an applicant-based petition. It's not an employer-based petition.
Perfect.
I-140 is an employer-based petition. But the 485 you're filing, but obviously you need a letter from your employer, and they have to fill out part of the 485, the 485J, to show that they still have the offer available for you. But you're the one who's filing, but there is a signature needed from the employer as well.
Okay, but what if the company files bankruptcy?
He's saying if the company files bankruptcy, then what happens?
As long as they're not closed, I mean, there are many types of bankruptcies, right? Chapter 7, Chapter 11. And most of these bankruptcies are filed to reorganize their finances.
Oh my God. So he says in case it is closed, in case the company doesn't exist now.
Then it's gone. Then you have your I-140 and the priority date.
It's all gone.
With another company. That's it.
Okay. So it will be all gone unless you file it with a new employer. That's what the answer is.
I-140's priority date is still there. So you just need to refile the labor cert on the I-140 and then port the priority date. So you're not losing anything really. You just lose, some processing time you've lost.
Wow.
Okay. So ideally, it's better that I have to request the current employer to file my new form and I-140 is that the best option.
Kind of. You should be working with a company who can take care of you, or the past employer should be in good condition. Keep praying for him. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Prashanthi, few more. Last call I'll take. What's your name? And ask your question.
Hey, this is Vivek here. I have one question. So we saw the news banning the entry for the 6 months. So what happens to people if they have to travel in the 6 months, or have to travel in a month or two? And what happens to their H1B status if they can't come back for 4 or 5 months? Will that H1B status be taken off?
Okay, this is a nice question. In continuation of this question, Prashanthi, if the person is stuck in India for last, say, 9 months on H1B, he went out, their house is here, mortgages, everything they're paying and all, what happens? And the jobs, you know that the nature of jobs, some clients do not entertain H1Bs when they're outside the country. They cannot be in remote mode. H1B, how much is the validity of H1B working remote from any other country? I mean, it's outside US.
There is no H1 needed if you're not in the country. The H1, you can work remotely. You don't need to be in any status. The status applies, immigration laws applies only if you're in the country. Otherwise, you can work for them remotely and there is no issue. But you're not on a H1 if you're not in the country.
So you're not on H1 and it's cap exempt, right? Then in that condition, when the things open up, then you come back.
Correct, yeah. They can just file H1 if it has expired or just come with the same H1 if they need a new visa. We're presuming that they need a new visa. But otherwise, if they're stuck outside the country and they have a home here and things to take care of, they can come on a visitor's visa and take care of their affairs. As long as they don't work.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, they have a very good reason to come on a visitor's visa, take care of their affairs, and then go back and then come again when they're able to on a H1.
Perfect. Thank you. I hope you got your answer.
Sorry, I just had a follow-up question on that. So when you said they can still work from the outside of the US, but not on H1B status, so they should be join the company with a different branch of the company. Let's say, like if the company X has like branch in US and in India, should they be employed with the India branch?
You will lose your H1B because, so yeah, I mean, his question is, once I'm outside, should I be employed with the company's another branch, which is, I mean, as a local employee of India then, right? Or some
So
other
it really doesn't matter who you work for once you're out of the country. US laws don't apply to you.
Okay,
so it really doesn't matter what you do. You can work remotely for the US company as well, or you can work for their branch office. Whatever it takes, that is only your comfort level and your ability to keep your job. But from the immigration standpoint, it really has no consequence. What you want to do, obviously, is keep your job. So if you're able to work remotely for them, from the US, from India, for the US company, you can do that. And then you open up, then you come in on a H1. You come back on your H1 and, start over.
Is it like you cannot be getting salary in the US bank account?
Not at all. You're not in H1B.
Yeah, you're not.
You will get a salary in India because you will lose your status as soon as the situation happens, when you're not.
You can be paid in India.
Yeah, you get paid in India.
With reference to being paid in the US, I think there are tax implications as well as immigration implications to that because you're not in the US.
Right.
Being paid in the US is not appropriate. I think for a short period of time it's fine, but for 6 months, I think you should just get paid in India.
So short period, again, reiterating is.
What is the maximum of that short period?
Same question that he's asking. What is that meaning of short period? How many months?
No, it's not defined in the regulation, but we're just using common sense. So 2 to 3 months should be fine, because a lot of people work remotely 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
For various reasons, because now people can work remotely. But if you're working 6 months plus, I think it doesn't make any sense to get money into your US bank account.
Makes sense.
Some people take vacation, paid vacation, and then they work, they go out of the country and they work from there also. So that doesn't mean they can't get paid in the US because it's an intermittent period of time that they're outside the country. Right. So I mean, just use your common sense and use prudence and, don't stretch the laws. There are no laws as such, but, you don't want to stretch what is not defined. So I would say a few months is okay, but 6 months might be cutting it too close. So I would just get paid in India. There's no need to be paid in the US. Why do you want to be paid in the US and get taxed in the US?
Right. Getting it. Thank you so much, Prashanthi. I hope you got your answer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Prashanthi, because we are running out of time and I have literally exhausted you today with hundreds of calls and they're still coming and I'm sorry, my dear viewers. Now I cannot take your calls. We will come back with Prashanthi with another episode where we can have more clarity on this EO and can talk at length about your individual situation. But now we need to sum up the questions that came, the variety, and only Prashanthi can do it, about the situation, about this EO, about the panic and the perplexity that is there in the crowd amongst this non-immigrant community. Prashanthi, please sum up everything, guide us again, reassure them not to be worried.
So basically, as we know, executive order will come into effect on June 24th at 12 a.m. So we're not, it still hasn't come into effect. It applies to H's, L's, J's, and their dependents. It only applies to people who are out of the country and do not have valid visas as of the date of the proclamation. So only those people are affected, and they cannot travel until at least December 30th. That is the duration for which the proclamation is valid. It is possible that it could be extended for a period of 30 or 60 days, and they have said that in the proclamation itself, that they will look at it again 30 days before it's going to expire. So they will give it a second look in November, on November 30th, most probably, and we will see what happens. And then we have to keep in mind also elections are coming up in November, so then it loses its importance because any new government will not consider the executive orders passed by the previous government. So that's something to keep in mind. There are exceptions carved out. One is if you're a minor child and you have an application pending and you cannot continue your process because of this executive order, then there are exceptions. They can process your case. The Secretary of State will decide. It's based on a case-by-case basis. So if you're outside the country, contact your consulate and ask them for an emergency visa and inform them that you're aging out or your child is aging out. So they have definitely made that exception. There's an exception for healthcare workers, essential workers, researchers, medical researchers. There are exceptions carved out for all those people. So so I think that's pretty much, I think, sums up the executive order.
Thank you so much, Prashanthi. Pretty comprehensive, like pretty detailed rather information. And our Facebook page of Mana TV has hundreds of messages there with questions. Of course, some J1 category people are also asking questions, but it applies the same way as it was for other visas. My dear viewers, I know when you hear this kind of news, panic itself comes in mind, and there are people whose families are outside, US right now. They're stranded, as the call came, where H4 person is here and her spouse, the primary applicant, H1B visa holder, is stranded in India. What would happen? How much would be the longevity of her validity of her stay here when she's alone? People have bought homes. They have their careers here. Somebody went for a funeral. Somebody went for a celebration. Somebody went for a medical emergency. And somebody went for their official work. They got stuck. COVID has created a disaster in our lives, and we have to accept this fact. We have to hang in there, though, with our positivity, with the hope that things will work out fine. The H1B immigrant visa holders are not financially impacting this much, as the other situation would have been. To educate the masses, every H1B that comes to this country creates almost 10 jobs, if I'm not wrong. The economy would have strengthened more with these non-immigrant visa workers working here, because their investment would happen here. Their careers are being made here. They pay taxes here. And you are rejecting a class of people who are high tax paying, who are innovators, who are contributors to the strengthening of the science, technologies, all different kind of scientific fields and research fields. Now, of course, respecting the American sentiment, respecting the situation that millions of American workers are unemployed, they must get their jobs first. They must get employed first. It is our wish and prayer for the American people that they should prosper, because immigrants the non-immigrant category of these people who are here, who are undergoing this suspension right now temporarily, we are coming to this country because this country is a beautiful land of immigrants, and we will just make it better, better, and better with our contribution. 31st December is the date. Till that time, of course, there are these suspensions that have come in effect. We will keep an eye how the administration takes its stance later on. You keep watching us. We will come back with more updates, more information, and more empowerment about you. But yes, we wish a speedy recovery for American financial market, for this industry. We wish that the unemployment rate goes down for American people, because yes, it is their soil and they deserve the best. And we would be there to supplement them to make this land better. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for your day. You spent almost half a day with me preparing for this since the time the EO came, and on the shortest notice you were ready to come and speak to my audience, our audience at Mana TV. Thank you so much, and we look forward to get connected again with new episode, bringing more education to people about how best they can cope in this situation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jyotsna. I hope we have given some answers to the audiences, and we'll have more shows for the people that couldn't get their questions answered.
Absolutely, not some. You have answered hundreds of questions today. Thank you so much, my dear viewers. We wish you all the very best. We will keep you posted. Keep watching Voice of Legal Immigrants. I am signing off now. Good night. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Thank you.